Hello and welcome to Unlocking Learning Pathways, the podcast where we explore the paths, the people, and the principles that shape successful careers. And with me today, I have a very special guest. Faye Marie Brown is the Director of the Learning and Development Directorate. Welcome, Faye Marie.
Thank you so much, Paula.
Faye Marie, could you tell us a bit about the role and the function of the Learning and Development Directorate?
The Learning and Development Directorate is responsible for all the human resource development needs of the public service, ministries, departments, and the men and the women who serve as public officers. We offer a whole range of services related to learning and development, performance management. One of our functional areas relates to talent development and competency development.
So then, in essence, you would say that your team is at the heart of workforce development?
You cannot delve into workforce development without learning and development as your partner. We partner with ministries and departments. We don't just provide services for the overall public service, but we give some customized services to ministries and departments to ensure that they are able to equip their officers to execute the task for which they were recruited to do.
So with that in mind then, can you tell me a bit more about the mission behind the work and the goals that drive the Learning and Development Directorate?
Oh, wow. So, Paula, in a nutshell, we subscribe to and very much promote the mission of the Barbados Public Service, or rather the mission and vision of the Ministry of the Public Service, and that is to provide services that promote professionalism, that are timely and relevant for the learning and development needs of the public service. We are essentially seeking to ensure that every public officer is competent to perform their duties. And that's what drives us. Simply seeking to ensure that we are all competent to deliver quality services to the citizens of Barbados.
That's very powerful, Faye Marie. And I imagine that fostering a culture of continuous learning also has benefits not just for individuals, but also for the entire government on a whole.
For sure. It is, take a step back, actually, Paula. It has benefits for the entire country. We come to work. That's why we come to work, as public officers. We come to work to make a difference in the lives of the people that we serve. We come to work knowing that excellence has to be our hallmark. That's what we're striving to do. And as a country, the public service must create an enabling environment for our country to grow and to sustain that growth over time.
Now, I know that within the public service, we would have the PRDS system. How then would your training then feed into the PRDS on a whole?
So, many people don't realize it, but performance is driven by training, or you can put it another way, that training exists to improve performance. And so, while we deliver services specific to the PRDS process, everything that we do is driven by the need to improve performance at the organizational level as well as at the employee level. So performance is really one of our key drivers. I often say to colleagues that in order to improve your organization's performance, its bottom line, you have to invest in your employees through training and development. That's the only way that we are going to achieve the success that we're looking for.
No, that is so true. However, I will say, Faye Marie, I've heard of instances where there are some top level managers who may not see training as being as critical or as important as you do. So then if it is, and some officers may actually be denied training from such managers. So then what advice would you give if I'm interested in, like you, I'm interested in personal development and growth and training, but then when it comes to the gatekeepers, then I can't get the gate door open. What do you do?
That is a perennial challenge. That is the truth. Um, Many of my team members would often report that the officers come on training and they return on a high, but then they're not empowered to transfer their learning to the job. And we do an excellent job with our training and motivating them. So imagine when you go back into the organization and you butt that obstacle that you just can't get over. So we need to partner, we need to implore and encourage our senior managers. I need to encourage my peers to create that kind of environment that allows officers to implement the learning that they have acquired. When people, it goes back to our culture of how we traditionally approach training. We approach training very often as something that is punitive. You know what? I ain't like how you perform it. I can send you on a training course. But training needs come out of your performance requirements. So when I go through your annual performance management process, the same PRDS, I should be looking to see where these skill gaps exist. And that's what we should be targeting. And it's not a question, therefore, of sending somebody on training. It is a question of working with that officer to improve their performance. So what are the solutions? What are the problems? What are the challenges? And what are the solutions? When they go on training and they return, you must have that conversation. What will be our action plan? What did you learn on the training course? How do you think you can use your new knowledge to improve what you do at your desk? And what are we going to do specifically with this newly acquired knowledge? How are you going to share it even with your colleagues in your workplace? This is the kind of conversation that we need to have, and the approach to training that is developmental and not punitive.
Now, I'm going to share another area where I found that some people say that they find that they're having difficulties, where they may be told that the training is not relevant to their job. What are your thoughts
Okay.
on this?
So this is one that yes causes a conundrum among public officers. Training must be provided at the time that it is required. Training must be relevant. That's when you talk about the principles. That's two of the principles of training and certainly of adult learning. Adults learn what they need to learn at the point that they need the particular body of information. We have a strategy of training public officers to be able to do the jobs that they're currently in. You must be competent at your job first. As you seek to either move up, maybe move across, or to achieve new skill sets, then those can be addressed systematically. But we don't train somebody for a job role they're not in as yet to prepare them, because that training is lost until such time as they're ready to move into role. So let's make sure that you're first competent in what you're required to do. And then let's address your developmental needs for future roles. You understand what I mean?
Understood. But is there such a thing as too much training?
You can engage, you can have, that's an interesting perspective. I think you need to have the training that is just required for you. I could decide a couple years ago, many years ago, I decided I wanted to learn a foreign language. I chose Spanish. We were doing Spanish, and I decided I'm going to enroll in this Inservice training course, and I am going to do Spanish. Did I use any of the Spanish when it was finished? Not a lick of it. I didn't even visit a Spanish speaking country to say that I could experiment with the knowledge that I gained. So, can I competently use Spanish now? No. I was not ready at the time. I didn't have a solid plan for using my Spanish language training. And so, therefore, I lost it. I lost what I learned. So, when you are seeking to develop yourself, you have to think about what it is that I need now versus something that I may need a little ways down the road.
Very true.
You have to balance it.
Yes. And I think that's it. It's all about balance, you know?
Striking the right balance.
Yes. So now we're going to segue now into some of the services offered by the LDD. Now, could you walk us through some of these services, these service offerings? But I'm going to put it out there. First one I want to talk about is the Training Leave Awards. Who gets it? When do you get it? And why?
Good. So, a lot of what we do in the public service is guided by legislation, as you would pretty much know. The general orders defines training leave as leave that is required to allow a ministry or department to achieve its strategic objectives. So the focus for training leave is on the organization. And what typically should happen, therefore, is that any ministry should look at its strategic goals and objectives and determine what training will I require to achieve these objectives. The organization, therefore, writes to us to request training in a particular area, and they will select the best officer to pursue this training. Our training committee reviews the request and we award training. The award of training covers all expenses associated with the course of study. So, tuition, if it requires the officer to travel, it will include their airfare, their accommodation, it will include their meals, travel allowance, transportation allowance. It will cover all of the associated expenses. But remember, the focus is on what the organization requires. So an individual public officer cannot make an application for training leave. Training leave must be done by the ministry or department, taking its strategic needs into consideration.
That's very interesting. So this is completely different from the study leave.
Totally different. Study leave now, the individual officer can apply for study leave. Study leave says that I have a particular career interest and I have decided that I want to pursue the relevant course of study to equip myself for that particular role. It can be a role within your ministry or department, or it could be a role outside of your ministry. It can be a role within the public service, or it could be a role within the context of the country. Study leave comes with several conditions. So whereas training leave looks after all the expenses, as an individual, you may apply for study leave and it may be approved with full pay, with half pay, no pay, or it could not be recommended. Normally, when we review applications for study leave, we look at the relevance of the course of study still to that individual's ministry, to the wider public service, and to the country as a whole. So you can study whatever you want to and make application. Still comes through your ministry though, to the Learning and Development Directorate. It must still come through your head of department.
Okay. And then I'm also made to understand that you also offer training loans. How exactly does that work?
So you have applied for study leave. You may not have gotten the study leave with full pay as you wanted, and you need to have some additional funds to pay tuition cost, or in recent times, probably the same person's asking for loans to purchase books or maybe a laptop to facilitate their study. They submit the documentary evidence that we require. Training loans can be granted up to a maximum of $10,000. The good thing about a training loan is that you don't repay until you complete your course of study, and the loan repayment is on a simple interest of just 4%. So it is a stress-free way of financing your course of study.
That's very interesting. So now we're going to take this step by step. So now we've gotten our loan and we've gotten our study leave and we've come back. But now we're interested in consultancy training. Tell me some more about that.
So this is a service that we offer to ministries and departments. A ministry or department may write into us and say, we are having some challenges with our officers in the area of customer service. We've gotten a number of complaints from the public that suggest that they are not as courteous or as knowledgeable about our services and products, or they don't know how to problem solve or use initiative within the customer service context. And we would like customer service training. And we work with that ministry. First thing that we do, we go in and we have a conversation, because we need to establish that the problem that you have identified is really your problem. So we have to do some fact finding. In our world, we call it a needs analysis. And that's where we have a conversation not just with management, but we speak to the employees themselves. And in some cases, we speak also with the customers who access those services. With consultancy training, once we have established that, yes, there is a need for customer service training, we design and develop the program. It's customized to suit your needs. So it's not a generic program that we put you through. It is based on the organization's needs. And once we've done the training, we come back 3 to 6 months after and we assess its effectiveness. One of my most pleasant experiences in consultancy training was for one entity. It was actually the Barbados Drug Service, and we were able to do a bit of a mystery shop, try to access the service, going with our prescriptions and see how easy or difficult it was, and then we were able to base the training based on our experiences with customers and with the providers, the service providers, pharmacists themselves. And that really went quite well.
No, this sounds very targeted. It's almost like the on-demand training model that you would have spoken about. So that's very interesting. So let's kind of just move then into the in-service training.
That is, of course, most public officers are very familiar with our in-service training. We get calls, I was trying to get onto this course and I didn't get onto the course. But in-service training relates to the work of the public service. And we provide training programs in those areas. So we offer training in financial management, all the accounting courses, enhancing financial performance. We offer training in management courses, management and leadership from the very bottom all the way up to the senior levels. So you'll see us offering team leading or management development for secretaries. We offer IT training. IT is very, very popular. Teams, MS Teams, Microsoft Word, Excel, all of those ICT programs, they're often very heavily subscribed. So we offer courses in the in-service programs that are related to what officers must be able to do in their jobs.
That's very interesting. And with so many options available, it sounds like employees have a wealth of resources at their fingertips for professional growth.
They do, and it's not just coming on a training course like before the face-to-face, the in-person training, but I'm sure you have seen that we also offer a number of e-learning programs. We offer self-directed training, which allows officers to see something that they know. An admin officer may recognize, wait a minute, they have a self-directed learning course on how to write briefs, and I don't know how to write a brief. And I can enroll in this course and I learn how to write a brief. I can learn the rudiments of doing research as an administrative officer. And I can do that as a self-directed learning program. I don't have to go anywhere. I log in and I do it at my pace. I take the assessments, and once I'm successful in my assessments, I've successfully completed this particular course. I've been finding that our reach has been gradually widening, especially with the e-learning programs.
Wow.
Yes.
Now, this is all, I keep using the word fascinating, but it is very fascinating because most of the services, most of what you offer, you wouldn't normally realize that you do so much. But before we wrap up though, Faye Marie, can you share any plans or goals for the future of the Learning and Development Directorate?
So there's one aspect of our performance, of our programming, that I want to see advance. We have been offering a national vocational qualification in public sector administration, and we are quite happy and very proud of that achievement. What it signals is that the public service has its own certification as it relates to public service management. We offer it at 4 levels: the non-supervisory level, and then as you move up, there are 3 other levels, all the way up to, let's say if I was working or about to be assigned as a permanent secretary, or I want to be assigned as a permanent secretary, but I do not have a management qualification. It means that I can enroll in the NVQ in public administration at my level and gain that certification. So that's an area of our programming that I want to see us offer a few more occupational standards in, and really level the playing field as it relates to certification and competence.
Now, if we could reach across and we could speak directly through the camera to our listeners out there and our viewers out there, what would you tell them is the most important thing that they need to know when it comes to training, especially when it comes to advancing in your professional career?
One thing? Or several. I'd want them to know that training is critical to your development. It's not just a checkbox to be checked off to say, I've done that. But you need to take a very focused approach to your development. You are responsible ultimately for your career. And I know that is a concept that many of us in the public service don't necessarily know how to go about exploring that. You are in a particular career area, my advice would be to see what are the requirements for advancement and see where you line up with those requirements and what you need to do. The boxes you need to check off and the ones that you need to do something about. I wouldn't be daunted by the process because to me, learning is a journey. Don't treat it as if it's a single event. Learning is a journey, and take it one step at a time.
Now, I just want to commend you and your entire team for the fantastic job that you're doing here at the Learning and Development Directorate. The combination of digital resources and tailored pathway, it really reflects a modern approach to learning and development. And I want to thank you, Faye Marie, for joining us and sharing these wonderful insights into the world of the Learning and Development Directorate.
Thank you so much, Paula. It really was wonderful being here. And thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share about all of the things that we do here. Some of which some people may know, some which they may not. I hope that together we have enlightened.
And I'd like to thank you too, our viewers, for joining us for our first podcast, but we promise there'll be many more to come. Join us next time for more insights into how we can all build fulfilling, impactful careers. Until then, keep learning and keep growing. Thank you.